Welcome to another episode of the Ultra Happy Podcast. I am your host and ultra runner coach Tanya, and Andy is back again with us, bringing in your realistic views and just making this a bit more real.
Well, that's a better introduction
Do you
than
like
last
this
time
one?
anyway.
I did ask this time, how do you want to be introduced? Because I totally bad introduced you last time. But we are 14 weeks away from facing our first desert, Namibia. And I will start the proper series today with the topic that I feel extremely passionate about, a topic that I get asked a lot about, and personally, I think it's the area where I've grown the most in this ultra running journey, and it's the mindset. I feel like without the mental toughness, some mental strength, you may have the best training, you may have the best gear and the best nutrition, and you can prepare as much as you want. But if your mental toolkit is not well, trained, you're going to crumble and just fail really easy at the first obstacle or first challenge that you face. You're just gonna quit and don't get your goals or your dreams. So, hope you find this chat. It gives you a little bit something to think about, something that makes you feel encouraged and strengthened.
I think for me, it's something that we've talked a lot about over the years. And I think that you always say to me that, ultra runners, because of the distance and the endurance, they have to tap into some kind of struggle or whatever it is. For example, the guy that said it was easier to run 100 miles and inject himself, which was bizarre to me.
Crazy.
But I know that you talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people talk about these struggles. However, I think for people that are non-runners like me, I think that what we do is we read books, we listen to audiobooks or watch documentaries, and I think that people who dig deep on past struggles to push them through is what we hear.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like adversity sells.
Yeah, like the underdog story,
the
like that
and,
sells, isn't it? Like it's so appealing.
I've been through all these different things. Yeah. And I think that from my point of view, that's not you.
Yeah.
You don't really have that as such.
Yeah.
So I'm more interested in what goes on in people like yours heads, but as well as that, what makes you not give up, and how do you manage things like self-sabotage? Because to me, that, I'm not saying it impresses me more, but that would be more who I am.
Yeah.
And I think for non-runners, that would be a lot what they are.
Yeah. And I read a lot of books, like I was saying, I was telling him like stories about the books that I read, and like you said, it's just sellable and it's out there, and we see this guy like running in broken ankles, and we just love those like tough
not mentioning any names, by the way,
but, like these crazy stories, and you're like feel so motivated. But that's not usually not everyone has that background. I didn't have when I started running. I didn't have that kind of like a struggle with my life that I could tap into and like say, when I was going through a rough training or a rough race, I didn't have any, like that guy said, like, oh, this is easier than injecting. So like, of course it is. Like I had I had no struggles in the past. So it was really difficult to kind of like tap into anything, because I've never struggled, and that became my curse and a blessing at the same time. Okay. And it took me a while to get into peace with that, because at first I was like this. I always thought, oh, this is a disadvantage they have. I am in a disadvantage because they have these past circumstances that they put them in like these mental strength, circumstances, and they are stronger mentally because of that. But I didn't have anything. So I was dwelling on that, and until I was able to see that could also be a blessing, because it took me into a journey of discovery. I was in the position that I could choose my own challenge. These people, obviously, they didn't choose, maybe had an abusive family or, come from that background. But I can choose my own challenge. I can choose my race where I'm going to challenge myself. So in that sense, I tried to turn that around, instead of saying, oh, it's a disadvantage and I'm never going to be as mental strong as they are. I kind of like used it to turn it in that sense. And I wasn't running away from anything, and the opposite, in the contrary, I was running to find something.
Yeah.
And that's when everything changed. I was like, I kind of like took on, I'm craving that crave of struggle and feeling fulfilled and achieving something with my own efforts, and in a controlled environment that is a race, like a controlled environment's a race. Like you sign up, you kind of know what's happening for, the distance that you're going to run. And, in real life throws you challenges, and, you cannot really choose sometimes your challenges, or these people, they didn't choose that. So, but I still knew very early that was my weak area. That was my weak link. And, you go to the gym and you work on your weaknesses. If you have weak ankles, you work on proprioception. If you have, you can work through things and lifting. And if you're bad at running, you get, better in your aerobic, and you work on that area. But how do we strengthen our mind? And that was something that I had to kind of discover and play around with, that idea, willpower and how to problem solving skills. I had zero experience in doing any of that, really. And mental toughness, the good thing is that mental toughness is a skill. So we can train it, we can change it, and practice that self-awareness and knowing like, oh, this is my weak link, I notice this is, and then I can work on it. So like I said, when I was a beginner, I think it's harder because you were saying, I have nothing to really hold on into. So I created.
Do you think though that, see how in the first podcast we talked about who you were, and from the swimming point of view and the training and getting that into that routine and different things. Do you think that helped you?
I think I was too little, and I tried to pull some memories from there, but I have very few memories from there. I did remember like struggling in some trainings, but I was too little, so I couldn't. It's not something that I have like a fresh feeling that I could tap into and go back into. Oh, you can go through this. You've done harder things, because I couldn't remember. I was too little, I think. So. Yeah, when I was a beginner, again, I didn't have anything. So I had to create
starting all over again.
Like you have to it's like I was telling you yesterday, like I can compare it like a plane, and then when it's like the takeoff, it's so hard, you're going against the winds, and you need to like figure it out how to, hit the wind the right way to kind of take off. So in my head, I started creating little challenges like every day, just using every day, stupid things like when I would come back from work and my feet were tired or sore or whatever, I would push myself and like climb up the stairs instead of using the lift. So for me, it was like a way of telling my body, obviously my body was shattered, I didn't want to go, but I would, would train my mind and say, no, you are going up the stairs. Or instead of taking the car to get groceries, I would be like, oh, I'm going to go walk it back, which it was like tough, obviously. And then that would give you a little bit of like everyday wins in my head. Yeah. So whenever I was training or I was going through a tough time in training or I found it hard, I will turn around and be like, oh, you walked 2 miles with groceries in the rain. Like,
hold on. When have you walked 2 miles with groceries?
I've done it. I've done it before. So, you're like, I can tap into that. I've done hard things. And then you start realizing that you can do hard things. And you don't need to go through traumatic experiences. You can create kind of your own everyday workouts to face challenges into training or
But
races.
Is it not that you need mental strength to get you to a point when you achieve your goal? Is it not that after that, it's just a reference point for you to go back to look at and how you've done it? So
exactly.
I guess what happens is if you've built up your mental strength, you get to a point where you achieve these aspects or these goals or these achievements you've got to do, but it gets easier, does it, or does it not?
It gets easier because then you have things to tap into, right? Like obviously, like I said, I didn't have anything to tap into. Like I have never gone into any struggles, so I had to do my own struggles to kind of like when I would go into a race, I would then. So it gets easier because then you start building your mental toolkit, and then you're able to solve, the struggles that you go through with those tools that you have in your mental. But to get that mental toolkit started is the hard part. I think the hardest part of everything. Once it's like again, like the plane, once it takes off and you can like start navigating a little bit more. But that first lift, yes, definitely. And obviously because I started putting myself into different challenges and I start signing up for races, as I start putting myself into more controlled environments, which I call them, they are races. And once I start putting that myself there in front of different challenges, obviously more challenges appear, and that's how you start like realizing, kind of growing that mental toolbox. And for example, one of my biggest strength opportunities, I'm going to call it, is when I was starting to run. I think it was my second or third race. Yeah. I needed to be rescued at a very high point in a mountain. I was strained there. I did a bad turn. I got lost. It was a life gave me a second chance that time because I was 12 hours shivering in that wee stone and no food, no water, just waiting to be rescued. And that was one of the moments I think I realized the power of your mind. Yeah. And when I was obviously there kind of shivering, I was like thinking something warm, thinking something, like a warm shower. You're in your bed, feeling really toasty.
So
like
Glasgow,
I could, no Glasgow. I would remember that, like, remember being in the beach, like, trying to take myself into a warm place just to stop shivering because it was so cold. And I discovered that my body actually stopped shivering. Like I could tell my brain to feel heat or warm, and my body will feel it. So it was a survival moment, right, obviously, but it got me through. Right. I was able to hold air for 12 hours. And you remember that probably.
I tell you what, I know I was laughing there, right? But I'm laughing at it from my side because I remember I was sitting in a pub in Glasgow, obviously having a pint with my mate, and I got this phone call. And I was like, Andy, I'm in a shit. I have a problem, and I'm thinking to myself, you've tripped or you fell or whatever. And he said to me, I'm on the edge of a cliff. And at that point, you started crying, and at that point, you never cried. And I thought, whoa,
this is real.
Something's not right here. But I remember at the time thinking, oh my God, almost in a selfish way, thinking that there's nothing I can do. I can't believe this. What am I going to do? Blah, blah. But I actually remember it was actually my friend Jason I was sitting with, and I turned around and I said to him, I can't believe she had enough signal to call me from a mountain somewhere in Mexico to Glasgow.
Even the mountain rescuers were like, how the hell you got signal? There's no signal because this is like super high in the mountain. But I think maybe because I was in a ridge that was very, very exposed, maybe I got a little bit of signal and I was able to call and for help. But I still had to wait a long time to get rescued because it was very high in the mountain, so I needed to wait for the ropes and the people to come up.
You talked about you talked about the fact that you overcame you were cold, so you were thinking of things that were hot, etc. How did you overcome the fear element? Because there must have been a fear element.
Yeah, it took me like probably a year and a half. I think that was the intermediate point where I actually moved to Glasgow in that, because right after that race, or sort of around there, I was about to move here. Yeah. And I did suffer, maybe like a little bit of PTSD at that moment. I didn't know the name, but when I would feel warm, when I would be like in a hot shower, that would take me back to where I was suffering, and then I would start crying. Like that would bring those like really, and even now sometimes I'm in a trail or something would remind me of that moment and fear. I can feel fear again, and it took me a while, like I said, like a year and a half to kind of build up again my confidence in going alone for runs. Even I don't know, I started self-doubt a lot, like if I was good enough to do this kind of risky sport, like is it worth it to even be out there doing these mad things on your own, more as a woman. Like I don't want to go into gender thing, but you still obviously you're less, you're more exposed to many things.
That's interesting for me because I never asked you that question about how you managed to handle the fear element of it. But even thinking back to being on the mountain, right? How did you handle the fear element of being on that ledge, sort of just standing there? How did you go over the fear element at that moment? How did you?
It was no fear. I was just waiting. It's just survival. I think when your survival mind kicks in, it's just survival mind kicks in. And I was just, like I said, I was just waiting for that. And I was thinking that because I knew I would go into hypothermia really quick. So I was trying to get warm. And the mind was so powerful in that
really
moment.
is an experience then that we're talking about, your mindset and mental strength that you can tap into and say, well, if I got through that, granted there was help there, right? Because you're pulled out. But I guess what I'm saying is, if you can turn around and say, well, actually mentally I managed to stay calm, I managed to stay warm by using my mind and trying to push me through it until that time came.
Like
when
seeing it as a positive. Seeing it as a positive. Yeah. Like that took me a while. Like it's not easy to change that mindset. Like I was like, first a lot of self-doubt, like I said, and then it took me a couple of months, a year almost, to build on that self-confidence, and like you said, have that chat with myself and saying, hey, listen, you survived 12 hours there. I think you can actually survive, a 10-hour race. And then that gave me a little bit of, when I was able finally to turn it into my power instead of fear, that was controlling me a little bit. Once I was able to shift that, I was able to be like, okay, that was stronger than the fear.
Yeah.
So that's when I was able to take control of the fear. And I said, okay, I understand, Tanya, you were scared, because we're humans, we feel, and that's absolutely fine. But have that conversation with yourself of, okay, you have that fear of what? Of getting lost? Okay, let's buy a watch. I invested in a good watch so I can put, plot maps and everything. I went to a navigation course. I now tell you where I'm going. I have my backpack always with the safety kit, security blanket. So that gives me reassurance, and I know if anything, extra food. So I know if something happens, I am. So whenever fear comes, it's like you don't have anything to fear. You have the tools, and you're equipped to do it. And that's when I realized, that. You know what they say, where the mind thinks, the body can achieve. Yeah. So I was able to jump that hurdle in there. And the way you speak to yourself, it's so important. Until I wasn't able to talk to myself with kindness, I was able to heal that moment in my life. So as I move on, as I move on from that, little struggle in my life, I practice every day with small challenges. Again, kept at it every day. And one of those little challenges, you're going to laugh about this one. Here we go. I had the great idea in making a mind over matter challenge. And it's nothing to do with fitness. Right? It was just me, like, how can I get my mind stronger? So obviously I had nailed a little bit of the habit situation of going to work out. Like that is not a struggle for me. That was already, all those I built up until that. But I still need to forge that, mental control. So I said, what is in my life that I don't have 100% control of, that I can control? Obviously, I don't have control of the weather, and I will never be. But what can I control that I can control? And I came up with, my weakness link is food.
Oh, yeah. I think that's both of us. Right?
I am a foodie. I love my food. And I thought, let's break up the habit snacking.
I remember when you told me, you said, I'm going to do this challenge for 6 weeks and I'm going to really restrict my calorie intake and my snacking. You spoke to your nutritionist.
Yeah, I was going to say,
and
it was a good nutrition plan. Like it was not a restrictive challenge. It was not a, cut everything food. It was a good setup plan accordingly to my training that I was doing and everything. It was not in an irresponsible way.
Yeah. And to be fair, I was delighted, wasn't I? I was thinking to myself, this is a good opportunity for me to lose a bit of weight. So I was happy. Do you know what I mean? I know that isn't what it was about, but I was happy about it. But I think that it was definitely good. It was good for me and us. But there was literally nothing in the house.
Nothing in the house.
Nothing. I was bloody starving.
I know. So the objective, right? So I'll tell you the rules of the challenge. So the objective was 6 weeks. You can't Tanya, you have to dominate your control of snacking. Like there's nothing, you're not going to eat anything that is not in the plan accordingly to the plan. Right. So it was so tough because it was during Christmas time, like around that period. So where there's hundreds of parties and people are inviting you. And I remember your parents did the Christmas dinner at their house and I had to walk in with Tupperware.
You done that with your Tupperware food.
And then I told Auntie, like, call them and tell them to do not offer anything to me. Like, just keep everything away from me. Like, it was just like, I had a really hard time. And I went through really, really tough moments. Yeah. Like, I would go to bed crying because I was like, and I was not even hungry. I don't want to use that word because I was not even hungry. I just couldn't eat what I wanted to eat, which it was, the gummies and the crisps, and it was just so hard, like so hard.
Do you remember the time that I was starving and I was craving other food because I was doing sort of similar to Tanya because I seen the benefits of it. But I remember one time after work, I literally snuck in the house with a Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, do you know the funny thing about it is what in my mind thought that you wouldn't smell it? You've not had decent food for ages.
Smell like Kentucky Fried Chicken. I was going through these
off your head, remember?
Oh, I was just.
You went off your head.
Thank God. You helped me to practice my self-control because I didn't stab you in that moment.
I never done that again.
Man, I
just ate it outside.
Yeah, I was like, just eat it outside. Don't bring it because it was already hard for me, and then you're like bringing this thing. Probably I could practice a little bit more of my self-control in there, but again, it's just it was a challenge. It was a mind over matter. It trained myself to be patient and the self-control. Like patient with me, with like talking to myself like in a nice way. Like I did it a very aware of that was the objective. The objective was never to lose weight or anything. It was, like I said, a mind over matter.
I was happy. I lost weight.
Yeah, you lost weight. I think I did as well. But, it's not the objective. But it was just that.
But something?
Learn to say no to a lot of things.
Out of everything, for me, that's the one thing that you always tap into.
Yeah,
you always,
that was hard.
See, when you're going through some tough times or we're having a conversation, you always reflect on that, saying, do you know what, though? I actually done that. And that was one of the hardest things.
That was difficult for me.
Yeah, because that meant a lot to you because you are a foodie and stuff. Yeah. And it might not sound a lot to other people, but try it.
Exactly. You can choose your own mind over matter challenge. Like if you struggle with going to the gym or doing certain thing that is going to be beneficial to you, then that's something you can. Oh, I'm going to do this mind over matter challenge, which in a race or training, going back to running chat, when the tough times come, you can tap on it. We've spoke about last episode about I DNF'd 3 times my 100-miler. Yeah. I've tried it 3 times. And the last one, which it was last year, the Jurassic Coast, I really, really thought I was ready, that I was confident. You even thought, this is it.
The one I know.
And the day, right away, I couldn't feel it. It was just really humid. It was really hot. And I started feeling a heat stroke coming right at the beginning. I didn't have enough salts, nothing. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to get to the first station because I thought, they will have salts and they will have crisps or anything and Diet Coke or a Coke, or not Diet Coke, a Coke, just something refreshing in there. I got into the aid station and they only had a granola bar and hot water because the water was like just there in
it was the hottest day of the year.
It was so hot. Yeah. And in that moment I was like, we are in trouble.
That would be like putting sand in your mouth at that point. Do you know what I mean?
It was
granola bar.
Awful. And the heat was something I didn't prepare for. I seen it, like it was going to be hot, like you can check the weather, but I should have known better.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I never thought that would be a case. You're from Mexico, you're used to the heat.
I think I got overconfident maybe.
Yeah.
But I made the mistake of not packing maybe enough. I get overconfident, maybe electrolytes, and I took full responsibility of it. Yeah. Like I couldn't control, obviously, the weather, but I could take control of my responsibility that I didn't pack enough, stuff to get me through. And yes, I could have been mad at the organization saying, "Hey, why you don't have enough, things to support the runners? Why you don't have like?" It did come to my mind. It said there in the briefing report when I read it that they will have Coke and they will have candies and they will have sweets in there. But the reality was that there was none of that.
And I think the other thing is you were back of the pack, so all the good stuff had gone by the time you got there.
No, there was nothing.
Was there nothing?
There was nothing. There was not even like, I could see sometimes like, oh, it's finished. There was just nothing. And I could have blamed them, you know, like, oh, you know what, it was your fault. It was not my fault. But what's that going to do to me? Like, it's not going to benefit anything. Like, it's not going to help me grow. You know, like my parents were there. They flew all the way from Mexico to see me. Like, there were so many things on stake. And so I had to change my perspective in that moment because I was really digging a hole for myself after I DNF. Because of a heat stroke. And it took me a couple of hours, maybe even a couple of days, one or two, where, you know what, it's fine to feel sometimes angry at yourself and want to blame, you know, you're human, you're going to feel. But that was just helping me to dig the hole deeper and deeper. Like, it was not helping me to get stronger, mindset wise. So it was not moving forward until I stepped out of the picture. Like, I was able to say, you know what, hold on. Sometimes we need to make like a pause and say, you know what, let's look at from the outside. Because once you're inside, it's difficult to see the things. But when you are able to step outside, I was able to like realize, you know what, I'm here with my family. They flew here. Doesn't matter, you know, if the race didn't go well. We drove hours to be here. We had a great time. We spent great times with them in the car. The place was beautiful. We've never been in there. We took a nice tour, a boat tour to see the cliffs of the Jurassic Coast. Maybe the race didn't go as planned, but I was blessed to share all these moments with, and actually even a funny story.
Actually, blessed with those moments.
With you.
Me and your mum weren't blessed, that's for sure. I tell you a funny story about it is Tanya was in a bit of a bad way, and we were kind of trying to keep in touch with her. Communication was off and on, and when I eventually got her again, she's like that. Listen, I think I've got heat stroke. I'm
going
in a bad
down.
way. I'm dizzy. I keep falling over. So I was like, oh my God. So checked the GPS. Had a look at the GPS, and I was like, right, Tanya, I'm coming. Try to be the hero. I said, I'm coming. So on the GPS, it didn't look that far. Remember? Because obviously on the GPS...
Well, you're not a navigator.
But you don't see hills
it
and all
looks
that
close.
sort of stuff. So Andy drops everything. Start running. I grab a bottle of water because you said, I need water. Grab the bottle of water. Start running. Saying to your mum and dad, I need to go and get her. Your mum is coming. I
don't know why my mom followed you. There was like, why? I don't know.
She's tearing behind me. And I said, right, I'll run ahead. No problem. So I start running up this hill.
I don't know any of this, by the way, until way after.
I start running up the hill, and you've seen the hill. I was like,
I
remember,
there.
I'm not a runner. I couldn't run a bath at that point. You know what I mean? Here's me running up the hill. Your mum behind me. So I get to the GPS spot, and I'm like, where's Tanya? No Tanya.
Like that's John Travolta meme.
No Tanya, but then I start panicking. I'm thinking, what is going on? So, half marathon later, remember?
I'm sure you guys run like half a marathon.
Half a marathon.
Just trying to look for
my
me.
watch. Remember, I checked my watch. Half a marathon later, I get there and you're like that. Where were you? And I'm like to myself, I came looking for you. Where were you? But
I'm here.
That's not the funny part.
It's not the funny part. It gets better.
We lose Tanya's mum.
On the way, because you were
on the way because
faster.
I was away, and on the way back, I'm looking for her. I get back down there. I'm like, where's your mum? She's like, I thought she was with you. No mum. We try to phone her, couldn't get her. We eventually get hold of her, and she says to us, I'm here in this place, such and such. It looks military.
There's a military base or something there.
So we eventually find her with a
inside
GPS
the military base.
In the military base, wandering about. With signs saying trespassers will be shot. And we had to get her over the barbed wire fence and make a break
because it was a Sunday and there was no one there. We're trying to like knock and be like, I know my mom is inside these like military base. There's no one.
I remember when we're driving away from it, thinking to myself, oh my God.
Someone's going to come
The army are going to search us out and prosecute us while your mum's wandering about a military base.
That was brilliant. So you see... I was able to laugh at that. I was like, this is a funny story that, you know, and then my mom was just there I will never forget that side of my
honestly.
mom just jumping the barbed wire. So I was like, Mom,
Happy
the only
tears.
way to get you out of there is like, you need to jump the barbed wire. Like,
Aye.
I don't know how else to. There was a big bar. It's a
There's
military base.
There's like 20
like-
cameras all looking
Oh
at
yeah,
us.
there's millions of cameras. I'm like, someone's going to see the camera and see that what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm always like, yeah, I seen some caskets of
Yeah.
like of gunshots inside, because obviously it's a military base, and
Yeah.
I was like so scared. Oh, my mom had the best day of
And I
all.
remember, see the next day, Tanya got up fine, like there was no race ever happened, wandering about, thinking, no, we'll go and get breakfast. Me and your mum could hardly walk.
I know, poor guys, you were so sore. But you know what? That's what I was like. I think after that night, it was rough. Like I was obviously very sad and everything. But after that, when you guys were
We did
after
laugh
that, tell
at
me
it.
the stories, and
Yeah.
I was able to be like, you know what?
Yeah.
You know, they're laughing. We're
just-
all laughing. It's just what it
I'll
is.
just never forget the relief on your mum's face when we managed to get her over that fence.
So, you know, that was just to see the positive side of
Yeah.
it. Maybe my race didn't go well, but you know what? I was there with everyone. We had a laugh.
Yeah.
We have a funny story to tell. And the last 100 miler that we were able to finally accomplish,
Yeah.
which that was a little bit later on the year, I'm going to say that achievement was 100%, not because I was in better shape, but
Yeah.
because of my mind was in better shape,
Yeah.
100%. And because I've been practicing my self-talk and making my toolkit a good one, I was able to remember that I was in control of writing my own story. And why do I want to tell people tomorrow about people and myself as well, because that's the most important, not about people, but yes, tell your own story. What's going to be your story? And I can only remember repeating to myself, like, you can do this. Remember who you are. I believe you've got this. You've got this. You've got this.
And I remember during that race as well, as there was a few shaky moments. Because when
Many.
you were running, and there was a couple of times you'd phone me, you were saying, because especially when running through the night, do you remember? You had to run through a field, and the field was all full of nettles or whatever. And you'd phone me and said, "Oh, I'm really struggling with this." And actually on the phone, after you said, "I'm struggling with this," you said to me, "Pull yourself together, Tanya." You know, because you knew that you had to get through it, and you'd prepared for it, you'd worked on it, you had all those lessons.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's not to say that not to make it clear, you didn't run that race without moments of. Like,
it was not. I didn't beast it
wonder
all the
whether
way.
you would be
No.
able to do it or not.
But I was
You
able
did,
to
but you
pull
pulled
myself
yourself through
out.
it. Aye.
Exactly. I had the mental toolkit because I've been practicing, and I don't want to say it's easy. I've been practicing years
Yeah.
to get to that moment and be able to like, oh, you know what? I think I have a couple of collections here that, you know, this is what this can help you to get you out of that. And sometimes it's just a word that can pull you out of that moment. So I've been able to apply into my races, you know, and even in life in general as well, because those are skills that you can use pretty much for anything in life. And my toolkit, you know, to have it ready and prepare as much as you can, because obviously there is going to be uncontrollables, because there are, you know, there's things that you're not going to be able to control in a race or in a training or whatever. But if you are there, the best, just show up as best prepared mentally, you know, you will have better chances to obviously succeed. So when you're facing races, I know I will need certain tools facing these challenge or these races, and I'm going to be prepared for it. So how do I prepare? Just have a couple of notes here for you all. Maybe you will find them useful, and that's sort of what I've summarized, what I've found them useful through these years. So number one is how I'm able to break the distance in manageable chunks. For me, in any race, and he's gonna laugh, but I do my Excel. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're gonna be able to see it's an Excel file. So I put checkpoint to checkpoint. So I just break it down, and if I have written it down, I know from one checkpoint to the next one how many kilometers I need to go. And you can see it's like folded. So I just allow myself to see what's the next checkpoint.
You can see it getting shorter and shorter.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, the next one is 15K. That's the only thing I am focusing on,
We can put that on the Instagram, let people see it.
Oh yeah, I'll show you. This one is I have it for every race. This one is my last one, which was a 100-miler. So, and then I put here, obviously, when's the next one? And then as I go through the checkpoints, I start, unfolding it. So what's the next one? Oh, the next, but I don't know when is the next one. I just know the immediate next one, right? So when I get to that one, well, I'm having my food and my drinks and just sorting everything out. I take my wee paper and fold the next chunk. So all I'm focusing on is the next checkpoint. So, and then also I write, important notes in there, like don't forget your headlamp, do this, you should be here, or, don't forget to grab electrolytes or whatever. So I do whatever notes I feel relevant in that point as well, because in a long race, your mind will start shutting down as well. More the long ones, over 12 hours, your mind, as your body, starts getting tired. And if you don't want to forget anything, just write it down.
I think as well, because obviously we've crewed you quite a few times now, it's knowing what the crew's job got to do.
Exactly.
Do you know what
I put them there.
So
I put your task.
when we're waiting at a checkpoint, we have a task to do. We've got things laid out, so it's easy for Tanya to go and see exactly what it is that she wants. Because while it might be a case of you decide at checkpoint 2 you're wanting these goos or whatever, by the time you get there, you might not actually need that. It might be something else. In fact, I'll tell a story about
your waffle.
And we've got loads of these, but on one of Tanya's checkpoints, so she was running through the night. This is the one where she had phoned us and said, "Oh, I'm really struggling," and then she pulled herself round. She'd said to me before the race even started, "Do you know what it is? See, when I get to that checkpoint, it's
the second one in the morning.
It's the second last one. I am going to need some sort of breakfast thing." And I think there was maybe you'd seen someone had a waffle somewhere.
And said, I was craving in that moment a waffle. I was just craving a waffle. She said,
"Oh my God, I would love a waffle and fresh fruit." That right?
And coffee.
A Costa coffee. And I'm like, right, okay. So here's me thinking, where am I going to get this? So I'm driving about Marlborough. I'm driving about Marlborough looking for a waffle shop. I find a waffle shop and I'm thinking, oh my God.
I need to rush back to make it on time as well.
I need a dog in this waffle shop. And I get the waffle and I think, oh my God, that looks delicious. So you open it up, it's full of strawberries, it's got like everything. I'm thinking that'll be perfect, it won't be too bad for the morning. So great. Get her the wee gummies and all that she wants, X, Y, and Z. Get there. So I'm up at 5 a.m. Get to the checkpoint because you're arriving meant to be about 7 and I think you came in like a bit later. So I get to the checkpoint and I'm sitting there with the dog. Go and get the coffee. Just quite a thing. I'm all excited, thinking, I've done well here. I've got her exactly what she wants. So I hear from someone, the runner's coming in. She needs to be in and out the checkpoint quite quickly. And I'm thinking, right, okay, well, I've got the waffle, I've got this. So I see Tanya coming in. She's actually got a bit of blood on her. And I'm thinking, oh shit, what's happened here? She's coming in. I'm walking up. So imagine this. I've got the waffle in one hand with a coffee sitting on it. She loves the dog, so I knew that she wanted to see the dog. I've got the dog, and I'm walking up to her. And she comes in and I say, I've got the dog and your waffle. And she's like,
Shut up!
I want a bloody waffle! I don't want a bloody waffle. I need to get out of here quickly. And I'm standing there, and then she goes like to me,
my God.
Where's the goose? And I'm like, the goose on the road. I don't know what to...
His poor face was like heartbroken.
Devastated.
He was like, I've been waiting for this moment with a waffle for like 3 hours.
I thought to myself, I bloody got my heart and soul into this. I travelled all about Marlborough to find you the waffle you wanted, and I get in and you don't even want to look at it.
Hurry up, where's the stuff? I need to get out. Water, done. And he's like,
want a coffee.
Okay, I can see him like panicking, just throwing everything, forget the dog.
The dog's running around.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I need to get out in 2 minutes.
On a positive note,
we made it.
I had a cracking waffle that day.
Oh yeah, you had a good breakfast. He had to eat it because, I was not going to eat it. And actually, I watched I seen the waffle and I was like, ugh. I will throw up if I eat that right now. But, I was like 28 hours into the race. So obviously I was not, I
wrote that down. Never get the waffle again.
Bring whatever she asked you to bring.
Never get it again.
Yeah, your taste changes so much, isn't it? And also the other thing, so going for point number 2, that is very useful in, when you're going to attack a challenge or a race, is kind of like tell yourself what story I want to tell tomorrow. What do I want to achieve with this? Like your why, some people call it like the why of this. And it can be something deep or it can be something really stupid. Like, I want a tattoo.
I want it. Yeah.
I wanted my 100-mile tattoo. I said, I want to do 100-mile because I want to get that tattooed.
Yeah.
So that was my why I wanted to do 100-mile. Again, and if that pushes you, if that is going to put you through, which it put me through,
yeah.
Not this one, but the 3, like the reason I was doing it because I wanted a tattoo. That's it, So be it. Like if that is, I know it's stupid because you said it like, that is so ridiculous. You're going to get a tattoo with 100-mile. I was like, you know what? That's driving me.
So now you've got a horse in the back of your leg.
That says 100-mile.
Says 100-mile. Do you know something just about that race? And it's maybe going a wee bit off topic, but I remember at the end of it when I was at the finish line.
And I was crying, my eyes
with
out.
the dog. That
no waffle.
That you crossed the finish line and you broke down. Like I'd never seen you like that.
I know.
You actually broke down. It was like an emotion and you just releasing everything. And you sat there, I remember, for a while, and there was part of you couldn't even talk for a bit.
I was like, I can't believe I pushed this through.
But I think that shows the release of making a challenge and getting through it physically and mentally and everything.
It was like,
it's got that emotion coming out.
I finally cracked the like not cracked the race, but like my mental. I knew it was my mental, like pulling me all these years.
Physically,
I knew it. It was not
everything. Yeah.
It was not physically because the other 2 or 3 shots I've got at that distance, I was the same fit. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I knew it was not the problem. It was always the mental side of it, and I was just released that I was able to like be able to pass myself. Like I fought against myself. And I won this time.
In the 8 years we've been together, I've never seen you like
cry
that. It
anymore.
was like,
I know.
but it was just that release. It was just.
It's like I won the fight.
Yeah.
Like I've been fighting this fight for 4 years.
Yeah. But
I won.
But I guess that's something, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier on, is that once you have done that and you've actually made that challenge, it's not that you don't need the mental capacity to get through the next one, because you will do, but you now can compartmentalize that.
Oh, absolutely.
And what you've got that then is history that you can tap in on
exactly.
and say, I've achieved it. So it's a confidence thing.
Like 3 weeks after we went to Jordan.
That's right.
And when tough times started, because there was obviously a couple of times that we were like, oh, this is really hot and I still have to do another 40K. Still, I was like, this is nothing compared to my 100-miler because I was in pain. I just need to survive another 2-3 hours. In the 100-miler, I was fighting for 32. Yeah. So this is, I can do this. Like you grow in that confidence. So, and the other thing that I usually do, what I was telling you about, is the word. I don't dwell into the quote thing, but just one word that that you want to dedicate. Help me. No, not help me. But you want to dedicate it to. And for example, that 100-miler that put me through, it was my word for that race was believe. So when I was, going into that deep, like, oh my God, I can't do this, I would tap into that word. Tanya, I believe in you. I believe you can do this. I believe you've got this. I believe, so it was just believe. So just one word, and then you start thinking in things surrounding that word. Yeah. So that snaps you immediately out of your bad thoughts because you're thinking already in something else. Yeah. So it's great. And it's a positive thing, obviously, that you're thinking about. Or Jordan was grateful and was my word. So whenever I was struggling, I was like, oh, I'm so grateful that I'm here in this awesome place. Oh, look at that view. Like, I'm grateful of living this experience. I'm grateful that my parents are going to be coming later. I'm going to see you. Like, I'm grateful. So you see what I mean? Like, you snap out of your bad thoughts. So your bad, start of digging deeper in that black hole. You kind of like focus in something else. So, even in training periods, I have also a word. And this particularly training period that I'm getting ready to the challenge, my word right now is blessed. So whenever I am because obviously the trainings is still hard. It's not only the race, but it's obviously the time and the efforts behind it. Like if I need to go to the mountain 4 hours and a half, my back is hurting because I have the 10-kilo backpack.
And you've moved to 2 sessions a day now as well.
I am doing 2 sessions a day. So whenever I was like, oh my God, this is, too much, I just snap out of it with blessed. My word right now is blessed. So I snap with like, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to be even trying to do this challenge. I'm blessed to have the support at home to be able to go out and be by myself 4 hours. Blessed to have health that, like there's so many things. So again, a word, it doesn't need to be a quote, just snap out of it. And also another one, I know my mind starts, and then I think you struggle with this one actually. That's the one that you've told me just lately, because he's starting to run. So he's starting to realize there's things in your head that is going to start playing with you. Yeah. And it's the boring part. Like you're like, I am bored. So I know I get bored as well. It's human nature. You're doing something so repetitive, and I know my mind is going to get bored. That is when it starts wandering. That's when it starts tapping or being more vulnerable to bad thoughts. So what I do is I get ready even before my races or long runs or whatever. I make a cool playlist. Sometimes I don't listen to my favorite podcasts for a while. So I have them in my, to listen to kind of list. So I am actually looking forward to that, run or that race or whatever, because, I know I have an exciting playlist or I have an audiobook that I am really interested and also start knowing your likes, when I have already like a power song playlist that I know that will put me in a good mood. Like if I go to a race that goes overnight, I like to put that songs in the morning. It's a happy song, it's a morning song, or if it's a night shift, I like to listen more to audiobooks because that relaxes me, because I'm going, running alone in the night. That's already a little bit scary for me. So my brain reacts better if I am not listening to hardcore music, but it's something that just calms my mind, which is a nice audiobook, and just I feel like someone's telling me a story, and that just helps me. So knowing all those little things, and again, you can practice in your training, but just those things that you start building in.
It's funny, I know when you're starting to get in the mindset, because for like a week before the race, we've literally got Queen Don't Stop Me Now blasting out the house 24 hours a day.
That's in my power song
list. That's your power song, isn't it? I know.
I'm like syncing up. I'm like syncing.
Do you know what's one thing that I did, I guess, learn from you is trying to find that thing. So see, for me, and I mean, I know you told me not to say this, right? But running one foot in front of another for a beginner, putting one foot in front of another for a beginner is kind of like, I'm demented. Even with music and stuff like that. And like,
no, you said, how hard can running be? It's just putting one foot in front of the other.
Originally, until you start doing it and then you recognise that it is a bit different, right? But I think for me, when I was speaking to you about it, is that for me, the thing that gets me through it is a result. And by a result, I mean, today I done my 5K in slightly lesser time. Today I didn't stop. Today I've achieved that on it. Do you know what I mean? So actually it's something that drives me mentally to go that wee bit forward. I've got to that line. Now I can take it to the next one. Exactly. And I think that it's finding all those wee gains, no matter what it is, to push you through. And that's something that stops me from getting bored. Don't get me wrong, I still get a bit bored doing it, but I understand.
Exactly.
I'm challenging myself.
I think each one you have to find your own mental game, like what keeps you moving. Some people is the times, like I said. There's some people that are into, I want to go faster, and they play with that thought of like, I want to run the 5K in, I don't know, X amount of time, and they like the slips and the times and all that. I play with how far can I take my body. Yeah. So obviously that entails all that. So yeah, that's another one, really exactly like that. So you can find your own kind of, what moves you and what motivates you in that sense. And the last one I have here is reward yourself. So I have this thing that in the middle of a race, so whatever distance it is, let's say it's a 50K, I do 25K, I have a Snickers bar hidden there in my backpack. I do a wee celebratory dance. 25.
We've got videos of that you do.
25. I go with dance. I snack my Snickers and I celebrate that we're done. We're just going back home. So for my head, it's only 25K. And then we're back home. So I do celebrate, reward yourself, and I know that every step that I take from that moment on is just taking me home. Yeah. So I celebrate a bit, and then now every time I eat a Snickers, I don't know why it reminds me
you of those wee
a
dances.
lot of moments. Yeah, now that we're in Christmas, we had like those tiny Snickers. Yeah. Every time I eat one, that would remind me like, I don't have those in a daily basis or really never. It's only in the races that I eat that Snicker. Yeah. So it's nice to have. And then I'm looking forward to it, to be honest. Like I'm like, when I'm in kilometer 15, I'm like,
I've got Snickers coming up.
I know, I have a Snickers coming up. And you know what? It's just silly things, but you need to kind of find what sets your heart on fire and kind of like makes you giggle and happy.
I guess you've kind of been answering the first question that I'd asked you, because I thought it was quite interesting that I think sometimes things look impossible, but it's kind of almost not giving up after failure. And I think for me, sometimes anxiety as well. So it's like fighting that anxiety, and then when you get through it, the benefits are massive, aren't they? Because if you can see the benefits afterwards, then that itself is going to make you mentally stronger. Because you think about it, the pride of doing a challenge, the memories, the experience, the achievement, the proving that yourself that you can overcome these things. I mean, that's stuff that you can't buy. You
can't buy, exactly. And I think that's why I find it so rewarding, Yeah. And I'm not saying I have all the issues solved and I have I'm the mastermind,
because you never know what's going to happen
exactly.
a mile down the line.
I would just try, like I said, to have my toolkit ready and just making it bigger and bigger with more experiences. And it just work every day on mental wins. Like I said, I still working on those. Trying to teach yourself something new is not easy. It will take years to happen, and more if it's not in your nature. Like I said, it was not in my background, and it was hard to learn how to talk to myself in a patient, loving way as well. I'm not the most patient person. I'm not the most loving person either. So having to talk to myself that way, it's been a process. And it's also okay to have those moments, like, those self-doubts and be angry at yourself. I mean, like I said, it's just human. We should allow ourselves to see that place and be okay to be in that place sometimes. But because life happens and life is going to throw you sometimes. Life, or in a race or whatever, is going to throw you into that cave once in a while. And, it's just know that you are tough to get out of there, and I think when you have that power and you know that you will be able to get out, you actually even enjoy being there sometimes. Yeah. You're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to sit here. I'm going to enjoy, the moment that I'm going through. That happens to me sometimes in races. I don't know, deep thoughts come to me like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm like, you know what? And it's funny because I realize I'm having that. Like, I know I'm going into that. Yeah. And I say, you know what? I'm going to let you talk, mind. Just talk, you know what? I'm listening. But I know you're not, I know I'm not going to leave here. This is not the place where I live. So I think that is the really powerful where it comes to the power of your mind. Like, I'm not going to be I'm not going to get as tough as fuck, mindset, and I'm going to turn into a robot,
Did you just swear there?
Yeah, sorry. It got just fired up. It's about embracing going to that place again and just kind of knowing that you're strong, and then you're just you're visiting, but you do not leave there.
Is there a bit of comfort in the fact that that other people are going through the same thing, or do you only focus on yourself?
It's not comfort, but I think that's why the running community and ultras is so strong, because when I see someone in a race or deep in that race, it's almost like you don't even need to talk. Like, you both are going through the same, and it's quite bonding. I think you share that with that person, and it's actually something that bonds you, and you grow deeper connections in that like a lot of my friends are after a race, like I said, just you're talking to this person for 8 hours and you share things and share struggles. So it is definitely connecting. And the mental strength is about finding the right balance between performance and enjoyment. It's just a fine line. It's not about being super,
but it's also,
robot.
but it's also about tackling things that you're not comfortable with and overcoming them. And I think I said it earlier on, for me, it's going to be about building confidence. Yeah. It's that confidence, once you've got through it first, that's what changes your mindset, because you know you can do it.
It's like a snowball, isn't it?
I think you can apply that to anything. In like day-to-day life, whether it be work or whether it be people that are going to university and studying, or whether there's a challenge ahead in your life that you're coming to deal with. I think once you know that you can get through it, you've got that confidence, but as well as that, there's an element of, like I said before, pride that you've managed to achieve it,
And then because if you're enjoying the process, and now, like you were saying, you're aware that that's going to happen, that it's like a snowball, and then because of you're allowing yourself to be more patient with yourself, and your mental chat starts being more loving. That's when I realized, and then I started being a little bit more nicer to yourself. But it's proven that mentally strong people are more successful and happier, because you develop the habits to effectively navigate through times of adversity and failure. That's pretty much what life is, isn't it? And well, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I think because like I said in the beginning, it's something that we talk about quite a lot, is the mental challenges of running and just in day-to-day life, and especially ultras, and what got you through. But for me, it was interesting listening to those points of where you're almost out there, you're in the dark, and what it is that you're going to do to get you through to the next stage, and push you through those moments. Because for me, I understand that, like I was saying in the beginning, that the adversity sells. You hear all the stories that I'll hear of being a non-runner, and if I didn't know you, everything I would know about ultras would be that all these people that have went through mental struggles in their life, or they've had big problems, are the 99% of the runners in an ultra, and it's not true.
It's not.
There's actually, you do hear about them, and you do talk to them, but I think that it's good to know and good for people to hear that it's not all about that. It's about actually you getting out there, challenge yourself, bringing that consistency, that problem solving, working on your own mind, and actually having, like, you've got a little system and a plan there of how you're going to get through it, each stage, I guess. But for me, what I've taken from it as well is one of the most important things is to remember the past. Remember those things that you'd found that you maybe struggled before, or things that have maybe, I don't want to say let you down, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, learn.
And how you're all going to overcome it. So yeah, well, it's been mentally strong. It's also about tapping into that history and making sure that what you do, you use that to move forward.
In the contrary of thinking, you're getting yourself stronger, building yourself a little bit more resilient and actually being more human. As it sounds a little bit conflicting, like you want to be stronger but more human a little bit as well. Be a bit more in touch with your control of yourself and your mind and your thoughts, because that is what drives pretty much your decisions and your attitude and your if you see something is positive or negative, it's in your mind and you have the control of it. And I invite you all to
join you in it.
Practice it.
Where's the first one again? Where's the first?
Namibia.
Oh, Namibia now, is it? Actually, see, last week.
It's not Namibia.
we went home and I said to Tanya,
we're watching the beat.
Where's the first one that you're running against? She's like, Namibia. Namibia. And I would consider myself fairly good with geography, and I was like, I don't know what that is. She said it's in Africa, and I said Namibia. Namibia. Okay, I've got it.
Apologies, I've been saying it wrong all this time. The first one is Namibia. Yeah. So yes, I am very excited to put all this, my mental toolkit into it, and I'm still building it, with all the training that I've been doing as well. So I'm very excited to put all this in practice, and I'll come back to you and tell you.
What have we got going on next
week? Thank you so much for next week. We are going to start talking about training. I think that's how I'm thinking to building it the season towards the first desert. So we're going to start talking about training. How am I doing my training? How I am seasoning, like how I'm planning my seasons.
Yeah.
And hopefully then following episode, I will have my coach joining us so I can have a third party or a second party, kind of like talking about how is she attacking. I've been like in collaboration, but it's really, I let that control to her. So thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for your response and messages about the first episode.
It's been exciting, hasn't it?
I know, it's been surprising. We are loving them, so please keep them coming. If you joined our podcast, and don't forget to leave a review and follow us for the next episode. We'll go, like I said, into training details, and have a great weekend. Keep moving and doing whatever makes you ultra happy.